Good afternoon. Throughout the day, Saturday, and into the early morning hours of today, we had a number of people engaged in peaceful protests on the streets of Baltimore. I want to sincerely thank the hundreds of protesters who were peaceful. In Baltimore, your right to a peaceful assembly will be protected. You have my word on that. We saw individuals demanding justice, and we all have a right and duty to allow them to march and assemble. My heart broke watching the pain in our country play out in the form of fires set and images of looting. In Baltimore yesterday, we were a national example of what it looks like to engage in passionate protesting without widespread breaking of the law. I can't thank the people of our city enough for their courage in the face of continued pain and anger. While the vast majority of protesters followed the law, we did, however, had a few incidents of unlawful behavior that we dealt with swiftly. I want to reiterate a point I made yesterday. If you're coming to Baltimore to protest peacefully, we welcome you. But if you're coming here to throw bricks or break storefront windows or destroy police vehicles, you're going to find yourself in a jail cell. That's a promise. Again, I welcome peaceful protesters and will protect your right to assemble. I won't, however, have to tolerate for anyone found breaking the law. In a moment, you'll hear from Police Commissioner Harrison, but before he comes up, I want to take a moment to thank the men and women of the Baltimore Police Department for their professionalism and service to our city. Your jobs are extremely difficult, and unlike other professions, you have zero room for error. You have to always get it right, and that can be a heavy burden to face. Please know that the residents of Baltimore are behind you. Do your job well and honor constitutional policing. Respect the protesters' right to gather. I also want to thank Governor Hogan. The city has been working closely with Maryland State Police and the governor's office. He told us that the state is here to assist the city, and I want to thank him for that. I want to recognize and thank members of the media for the important role you're playing at this moment in our country and city's histories. Last night, we had reports of journalists from Fox 45 being assaulted by protesters. We're not going to stand for mistreatment of the press, who are doing their jobs covering the situation on the ground here in Baltimore. So again, I want to thank the press for their work and let them know that they will also be protected and allowed to do their jobs. And finally, I want to recognize and thank the many individuals who were part of yesterday's protest, acting as peacemakers, trying to keep the folks calm, and who encourage agitated individuals against throwing things at the police or committing other unlawful acts. You played an important role in keeping the peace yesterday, and this city owes you a debt of gratitude. Now I will turn it over to Commissioner Harrison.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I would like to recognize the men and women of the Baltimore Police Department, and while our officers did encounter acts of violence against them, they continue to serve with an unparalleled level of professionalism, tolerance, and restraint. A majority of the protests in Baltimore remained peaceful over this weekend, and I want to thank the many peaceful protesters who worked alongside our officers in allowing us to keep them safe. Our contingency plan allowed for resources to be deployed to allow residents to exercise their First Amendment rights, and we will continue to support those wishing to protest peacefully. I want to thank Governor Hogan, the Maryland State Police, and the National Guard for their continued support in the planning and in the execution of delivering resources and keeping residents safe during peaceful demonstrations. For those who wish to agitate and to incite violence during what was mostly peaceful demonstrations, your actions will absolutely not be tolerated. 12 adults and 2 juveniles were arrested yesterday for unlawful behavior related to the protests. Charges for these arrests include burglary, aggravated assault, attempted arson, and failure to obey a lawful order. Our officers observed damages to several buildings to include vandalism, property damage, and stolen goods at locations near the downtown area. We have reports on destruction of properties at 8 locations and burglaries at 11 locations. We will not allow the actions of a few to define what we want to be peaceful protests, and we want people to not only exercise their rights, but to allow us to help them exercise their First Amendment rights. And I was made aware of an assault and burglary to members of the press. Not only did I speak with the news director, my team contacted the reporter, and I ordered my leadership team to document and to look into that incident. So attacking members of the press is absolutely unacceptable, and we will hold those people accountable for their unlawful actions. Again, I want to thank the members of the Baltimore Police Department and those in our local and state law enforcement partners in working with us to keep the residents safe over the past 2 days. We are aware of additional protests, and we will continue to support those wishing to peacefully protest and exercise their constitutional rights. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to our mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Now we will hear from Dr. Dzirasa.
Thank you, Mayor Young and Commissioner Harrison, for your leadership. And thank you to the protesters who we saw yesterday that, while peacefully gathering and sharing their fears and frustration, continue to wear face coverings and practice social distancing. As a Black woman, as a mother to Black sons, as the wife and daughter of Black men, I stand with those who are hurting, angry, and afraid right now. However, as we lift our voices against injustice, we must do it peacefully and safely. The need to use face cloth coverings, to practice social distancing, to wash your hands or use hand sanitizer remain critical behaviors that are key to reducing the spread of COVID-19. We have seen large crowded gatherings in other cities and countries become super spreader events where multiple people become infected with the virus. By taking the previously outlined precautions, you help reduce the risk that you will become sick, and you help reduce the risk that those around you become sick. If you are like me, you may be wrestling with the feeling that so many things are out of your control. However, this is one instance where we can all help control the spread of COVID-19 by taking the necessary precautions. In recent weeks, we have experienced positive trends in the data around COVID-19 for Baltimore City, showing that we are making strides in stopping transmission and saving lives. We are hopeful, but we must remain on alert. As we know, COVID-19 can spread easily and rapidly in large groups of people in close proximity for extended periods of time. So we need to continue engaging in behaviors that reduce our risk and reduce the risk of those around us. Again, I want to thank everyone who observed these practices while protesting. I plead with everyone, please continue wearing your cloth face coverings, washing your hands, or using alcohol-based hand sanitizer, and practicing social distancing in crowds. Taking these steps will help us flatten the curve and save lives. Thank you.
First, I want to thank everyone for all of their dedicated work. I want to thank the protesters that are out there protesting peacefully. But like I said on yesterday, and I just reiterated, there's no room for vandalism, destruction of property, and fighting with news reporters. So again, thank you all, and please continue to maintain the peace in our city. And let's show the nation how Baltimore can do it. Thank you.